When I went to my brother's wedding, there was only a seat for me and my son. To my surprise, my brother's wife, who should have been confiding, waved to me and my son with a sarcastic laugh, saying, "You don't need to prepare a seat for a poor man with children, do you?" At that time, my son stared at his brother's wife and asked a certain question, and my brother's wife's complexion changed. I am a 33-year-old housewife who lives with my son, who just turned 5 years old. My husband and I are not divorced. When my child was born, I consulted with my husband, who is very busy as a company owner, and decided to separate. Even now, the relationship as a married couple, as a family, is very good. My son is also looking forward to the day when he will be able to meet his father. Of course, there was also an opinion that if you were just busy, you don't need to separate. However, my family, especially my son, has special circumstances, and I do not regret making this decision. My son understands too. My son is not good at making friends, even in daycare. His special circumstances are difficult for even adults to understand, and even in everyday life with children in the same class, they can unintentionally hurt each other. It's hard for us to be at home all the time, and I can't be with my son 24 hours a day because I also work. Therefore, I sometimes visit my parents' house and leave my son with my parents. My parents understand my son's situation and he loves them, so I can leave him at their house with peace of mind. By the way, I have an older brother who is 2 years older. My brother studied hard and joined a prestigious company as a new graduate. Even now, my brother works at that company and living a fulfilling working life. My brother decided to marry a woman he had been in a relationship with for a long time. She is the only daughter of a well-known wealthy family. I myself married a company owner, and my brother also decided to marry a woman with a good family, so my parents are very happy. One day my brother came to my parents' house with his fiancée and brought an invitation to our family. My brother had seen her with her parents for a long time, but I had never met her before. Her beautiful appearance and elegant demeanor made me feel that she was the daughter of a wealthy family. The day of the wedding came, and still she was very friendly, and we got along quickly. Time passed, and finally the day of my brother and her wedding came. I'm supposed to take my son with me to the wedding. The venue was large and had many guests in attendance. My son was excited about the new experience because it was his first wedding. Just before the reception started, we noticed that there were no seats for us. When my parents checked with the staff, it seems that our name was not registered in the seat from the beginning. They told me that she had instructed the staff at the venue to remove me and my son's seats. I was surprised and asked her, "Why did you do that?" She said, "You don't have to have a seat for a poor person with a child, do you?" "Go home early and earn some money," she replied lightly, smiling sarcastically and waving her hand to us. "Actually, I didn't even want to invite you to the wedding," she said. "I never thought that such a person would be my brother's wife." I was sorry that I didn't realize her true personality. My son has gradually come to sense the atmosphere around him, especially since he has special circumstances. He is also sensitive to the content of adult talk. My brother's wife seems to misunderstand me as a single mother, and I wanted to clear up this misconception. However, from what I see of her, it seems unlikely that she will listen to me. At that time, my son stared at my brother's wife and asked, "Mom, is there something you are hiding from my mother's brother?" My son's eyes are pure and unobtrusive. "Mom, your ex-husband is still there, isn't he?" When my brother's wife heard this, her complexion changed. She looked at my son with horrified eyes, but suddenly began to sweat from her face. I was surprised again, but I tried to understand the meaning of my son's words. My brother's wife apparently invited her partner with whom she was having an affair to this wedding. My son seemed to sense this somehow. Suddenly, my brother's wife raised a shrill voice. She seemed to mistakenly think that my son and I had witnessed a secret meeting between her and her adulterous partner. After that, the door opened and my brother, my parents, and a strange man entered the room. The man was the president of a company that was indebted to my brother's wife's parents. As soon as he entered the room, he bowed deeply to me. My brother's wife didn't seem to like that I was talking to the president in a friendly way, so I decided to reveal my relationship with the president. I didn't do anything big directly, but it was actually my son helping the president. My son was born with a special power, and that power made this connection. A few years ago, I went to a bar alone and met a depressed man who was sitting next to me. The man is now the president, and at the time his company was facing serious financial difficulties. The vice president had run away with the company's funds and had lost credibility. I offered to use my son's special abilities to help him rebuild his business. I let him meet my son, who was still small at the time, with the president to locate the vice president who had flowed with a large sum of money. When we actually checked the location, we found the vice president and were able to recover the money that he had taken away. Since then, the president has thanked us and came to see us frequently. Later, it turned out that the president was actually my husband's business partner. Remembering how it happened, I explained the story to my brother's wife, and she was speechless with surprise. The president severely warned her and demanded an apology, but she was too upset to. I took this opportunity to tell her that I am married, not a single mother, and that my husband is too busy to attend family gatherings. She seemed to think that I was in financial trouble. After a while, she shouted, and several people from the hall came to see what was going on. My son pointed to the man behind her, who was one of the invited guests of her, and he had a grumpy look on his face because he had been stabbed in the finger. In regards to that, I feel sorry and retract my son's finger. I guess that this man was probably her affair partner. My brother looked at the man who had not yet figured out and his wife and sighed as if he accepted everything. "That is your other husband, isn't he?" My son made a shocking statement. The corridor was filled with voices of surprise, disbelief, and disgust, and the face of the man who was pointed at was pale. Then she suddenly became emotional. "No, you're wrong. This person doesn't make a lot of money, and he doesn't work for a big company. He just looked good." She started screaming. However, the statement is too much like a confession, and the place falls silent. "No, this is..." She tried to make an excuse, but she was stuck for words. I calmly said to her that that was a gaffe, and she shuddered. I led the wedding guest around me to the venue and invited her parents. 10 minutes later, I saw her in the hallway crying with her parents. When I returned, "Do you have all the actors?" My brother muttered, "My father-in-law and my mother-in-law, I'm sorry, but I'm going to cancel this engagement and marriage. You can hear more from her," he declared. When I brought her parents, I didn't explain the details of the situation, so they were surprised. About 15 minutes later, she finally stood up and explained to her parents that she had been having an affair and that her affair partner was there today. I was heartbroken to see her parents' pale complexion. However, this is a situation that happened due to her own infidelity, and it is a very unfortunate situation. On the spot, her parents sat down and begged for forgiveness to my brother and us, leaving her with a grave face. We headed back to the reception hall. The guests who were told to return earlier must have heard some rumors, and I can see the color of bewilderment and sympathy. Naturally, the reception was canceled. We had a lot of time to greet and return greetings, and the scale of the event made it a lot of work for the whole family to lend a hand. My brother seemed a little relieved to receive encouragement from the invited guests. A few days after the nightmarish wedding, the two families reunited and officially broke up. She seems to have misunderstood me and my son as poor people and has apologized profusely, but I couldn't forgive her. My parents stay with my son and have some meals with him because it was difficult for him to make friends, because he still couldn't control his special abilities. My brother's wife seems to have understood this, but it's a thing of the past now. The misdeeds of her affair partner leaked out from somewhere and became known to his company, and he was immediately fired. He was only allowed to pay alimony in a lump sum, so he used his car and his parents' house as collateral, and as a result he was cut off from his parents. My brother was depressed for a while, but recently he has gradually regained his energy and is refocusing on his work. He said he would never get married again, but I hope that he will meet a new person someday. My son and I have been deepening our parent-child relationship and family bonds. While we don't get to see my husband every few days, no matter what the situation, we will live without forgetting to take care of our family.